For some reason, I set it for 3:30, and I thought it was at 3, and I'm sitting there going, man, I don't want to wait that long. I want to go take a shower. So they were handing out free backpacks today, and I got a towel, which is something that I actually needed. They actually gave some decent stuff today. So, but anyways, I'm going to be talking about two subjects today, and then I'm also going to open it up for questions and answers for anybody that wants to, ask a question in the chat. So, first topic that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the silent expansion of homelessness, and especially what I'm seeing here in Gainesville. And I'm not able really to take pictures or video of it just because people get hostile, especially the homeless, especially in large groups, if you start taking pictures and video and stuff like that, because they think what you're doing is malicious. So I can't really do pictures on that. And then the second topic is going to be this whole shalom. The second topic is going to be on this whole trucker convoy that they're talking about. It's going to hit the Texas, and it's going to hit a couple other border towns as well, all the way into California. And they're talking about 700,000, but I did a little bit of research on it today just so that I could find out what I could find out about it. And so we're going to be talking about that secondly. All right, so get your questions ready and start asking them as I go along. And once I'm done with the topic, I'll come back and I'll answer some of those questions. But okay, so here in Gainesville last year when I was here, you had the forest area, which is where I'm at. Now the thing is they moved everybody from from the other side of Grace and moved them kind of over here. But the thing is that this population has not only grown, okay, and I mean it's I think we're on federal forest. That's the reason why, because part of this is federal, part of this is state. And, so we're only allowed to be in a specific area, and then they're not going to mess with us. It's kind of like that happy medium of, okay, move out of here because we want to turn this into a National Guard spot. Because last year they were talking about, and they actually did, from what I understand, bring the National Guard in to be able to kick the homeless out of the forest over there on the other side of Grace. Okay, but the thing is as I walk by different forested areas, as I've walked by in town, as I've walked through town. Now, I was observant when I was here last year, but I'm just as observant this year. And, anytime, anywhere that there is a forested area, you are now seeing larger camps, of like 5 people or more. And you're seeing it like any forested area. So between Waldo and University, which is basically the beginning of downtown, all the way up to, I think we're on like 38th or something like that, in the northeast side. And so you have any forested area there. Plus, when we were walking into town on 441, we also got to see a large area there as well. Now, the homeless are getting kicked out of certain areas. They're being ran out of certain areas. But even Gainesville's trying to run people out. They're doing the best thing that they can do without, criminalizing homeless, because it's a liberal city. It's a college town. So they have to have some sort of perceived heart towards the homeless, because the liberals, they look at it and they go, well, we pay these taxes. These people should be being taken care of instead of sitting here begging for meat. Instead, if they really knew what was going on, it is what it is. Okay. And so this is happening across America. You have places like New Mexico that are starting to criminalize homelessness, be able to make it harder for you to be able to fly a sign and stuff like that. And you might be asking yourself, well, why is this happening? And this is something that even I keep asking myself, is like, what is causing this to happen to where they are now being public about it? And here's the messed up part about this whole thing, is that when it comes to attacking the homeless, it's becoming more mainstream. So there are court cases that have been fought at the Supreme Court level, and those cases have given us rights, such as the city of Boise v. Oh, I can't remember the guy's name. But if you go look it up, it talks about the Eighth Amendment and what cruel and unusual punishment is. But the thing is these cities are banking on long-term litigation and people actually standing up. And if you guys remember last year, nobody wants to stand up. They're too busy. They're too busy getting high. And so not only is this expanding, the not not just the drug epidemic, but you've got to have more people to service more customers. I mean, just think about how that's expanding, that line of business. And it gets to a point to where the politicians are relying on this, and so therefore they take the people that have been kicked down the hardest and have lost the most, at least at that point in time. And now just instead of respecting them and helping them get up on their feet and move in the right direction, they're too busy creating the problem, and then creating legislation so that they look good, because it's all a PR stunt, and all we are is the scapegoats. And so being homeless is getting much harder than it has been for a long time, but it's still not harder than what I got to deal with in the early 2000s. In the early 2000s, homelessness, I mean, you really had to hide. The police really were after you. They had enough. They had enough free time and such a large police force that they had enough time to be able to go and harass the homeless. Especially in the middle of the night, wake them up, move them along, stuff like that. And these things were malicious, and this is what you had to deal with back then. It's still not that bad, but it's backsliding into something like that. And all the gains that have been made towards at least having some sort of rights for the homeless, they're going away. Okay, so that's as far as homelessness, I think that it is expanding, and it's expanding at an alarming rate. But in order to keep the PR stunt going, because we got an election year coming up, and we need to have a roaring economy, so we need to cook the numbers so that the numbers are actually proper. And at this point in time, they're telling us that everything's good, we're having a soft landing, but yet we're having a nose, or we're in a full-on nosedive economically. And but the thing is people will believe what's being put in front of them instead of asking questions and going out and figuring out, like, why do I see so many homeless? What's really going on? They say the economy's good. What, are these people really lazy? So instead of doing their own research, they go and they go with the stereotypes, because it's much easier than actually being educated on the subject. Okay, so that's what I have to say about that. Let's see what kind of comments we have here. Hi, Smoking. Um, no, I haven't found my stuff yet. Yes, I'm good. I'm doing great. Okay. But please hear me out. Could you charge homeless illegals to help them learn English? You know what, Alfred? Um, that's a pretty good question. Could you charge illegals? That's if they actually want to learn. But the thing is, they congregate in their own communities, and they will never learn English because they're not put in situations where they have to, because there's three main industries that they go into, which is construction, landscaping, and cleaning. The females go into house cleaning, the men go into janitorial. Okay, and so they'll go and work for peanuts, like $7 an hour, and be able to speak their own language and not have to learn, rather than go get 10 or $12 an hour and have to learn the language and actually have to do something, because they want the money, they want the benefits, but they don't want to actually do any of the work. That's why they're illegals to begin with. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm being maybe I got something wrong with me, but that's just my opinion. Okay, so do we have any other questions? No. Okay, so the second subject that I'm going to be talking about is this whole trucker convoy. Okay, so I did some research. Apparently, the convoy isn't going to be leaving until Monday the 29th. I think Monday's the 29th. Um, uh, they're leaving on the 29th from West Virginia, and they're going to hit multiple points along the way. Now, there's supposed to be truckers and people in cars that are that are supposed to be doing one of these routes that will take them to one of the border cities along the border, but one of them happens to be in Texas, and because of the big hoopla that's going on in Texas, that is something that could very well be possible. But these numbers that they're talking about, they're trying to hype it up, they're trying to build it up because they're trying to build hysteria. Why are they trying to build hysteria? Because you know what, everything's so bad that if they don't, just like when Rome fell, they opened up the Colosseums and everybody got to go to the Colosseum and watch gladiator games because you needed to distract your people from something that's actually going on. Now, are enough people pissed off enough to where this could lead to a civil war? Well, let's look at the numbers. If there truly were 700,000 people or 700,000 vehicles, okay, and let's say that there's 1.25 people per vehicle, so we're looking at let's say about 850 to 900,000 people, all in all, so less than a million people that are uh, the that are in this convoy going to one of these destinations. One, what kind of economic stimulus is that going to do? Because all of these hotels along the way, because they're going to want to stop and everything else like that, and then all the accommodations, because these people have enough money to be able to afford the trip. Okay, so what kind of economic stimulus is that going to do? That is going to stimulate a lot of these small cities, and that's something that people really aren't thinking about. The other thing is, it's the way that politicians look at it. For every one call or complaint that they receive, that there are 9 other people that believe just like that person. So they use the 10% rule. So one person represents a total of 10 for anybody that's going there. So let's say you have 900,000, that's 9 million people. There's 350 million people in this country, and you need 3% for critical mass. Critical mass is what has started every revolution or every civil war in the world over the last few years, or not few years. It has. This is a scientific fact that they have figured out. Okay, and so you're sitting at almost 3%. What about those people that agree? What if it's, instead of representing 10 people, instead of you're representing 15 people? Because with inflation, with the cost of gas, with the wages going down, the workforce being automated, everything else going up, but your wages aren't, and all those different things. Now you have a lot more people that are sitting there going, well, I can't really afford to go, but I do support these people, and they will support them along the way, and probably even in those small towns, because of the economic stimulus that that's going to create. Okay, so you very well could have critical mass, and they're talking about that this could lead to civil war. Um, I'm not sure that this could be civil war. It could be. It very much could be. I'm wrong more often than not when it comes to understanding Billy Meyer's predictions and stuff like that. But one thing that he said is that the military and the police will be used against the people, and the one thing that Glenn Beckett was saying is that the federal government is trying to enlist the National Guard and take control over the National Guard to turn them on the citizens that don't like the fact that we've got these people coming across the border. Okay, and so therefore that could totally meet the prediction that Billy Meyer talked about, which is that the military and the police will be turned against the people. What will happen in the Supreme Court? There's a lot of rulings that are going on. There's a lot of things that you really need to think about, and implications and slippery slopes that this could create. Because the last time apparently um, that the National Guard was taken over by the federal government was during integration. I think it was in Alabama or something like that, when they tried to prevent the coloreds from going into the white schools. Well, same concept there. They're trying to, you've got one party that's saying it's an invasion, but it's being a party line. It's being political. because you realize, well, hold on though. The governor of Ohio, because apparently even Ohio has got into it. When Ohio got into it, that's what really made me, perk up and go, okay, maybe this is more than just conservatives, because they're tired of all that stuff there as well. So those are some things to definitely consider when observing the topic, is what can spin out of it. Will the federal government actually be able to take control over the military, and will they use that power and turn it against us? Now, I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying they won't. It's still to be seen. But this is just a warning that was given to, those who read the Meyer material. This is a warning that was given to us, years ago. And so this might be that time that's unfolding. But the thing is there's supposed to be back-to-back civil wars. So if this sparks the first civil war, and it does become violent, then that means both of them will end up becoming violent. Because what will end up happening is that if this were to play out the way it is, the federal government would end up beating back the conservative states, or all those that rebelled against it. And then from that point in time, they would go to take the guns from the conservative Southerners, the preppers, and those people that love their Second Amendment rights, which therefore, again, could turn into another civil war and actually be the end of the Union. It's a very possible and likely outcome that could come from something like this. So I would like to know your guys' opinion. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm off? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? You guys have heard me blab for almost 20 minutes straight, which that's pretty much a full video for me. So I'm just wondering what you guys think, and what questions that you guys might have. So let's see here. My neighbors is 1%, and he told me that Texas is dangerous right now. Yeah, I could have told you that. That's why I closed down my business. So I'm glad you're here, Cherokee, because you're the one that inspired that topic. And hey, Bushcraft, nice to see you. Glad to see you're doing okay. So, but yeah, I'm doing fine. Everything's going fine. We're getting ready. On the 8th is when we leave to go to the Pensacola. Sam was supposed to go to the vet and get her free the vaccine for free, and then oh, okay, Hell's Angels 1%. Okay, okay. That's something else. But anyways, they said that I had to take her down to the clinic and pay $25. So I took her down Friday, but I didn't know they were open Tuesdays and Thursdays. So now I got to take her down Tuesday and get her it's called for leptospirosis. Essentially, if I get it, then it may cause liver issues and kidney failure. And same thing with her, if she gets it as well. And so being out in the forest and drinking water out here, that's something that I have to have her vaccinated for. So let's see, Hell's Angel. Okay, that's crazy for one to say how dangerous Texas is. Yeah, everybody, you're comfortable in your own backyard because you know your own backyard, and when you go to an area that you don't know or that you're not as familiar with because everything's changed, all of a sudden your perception of the dangers becomes more blown up, or you're more worried about it because it's less familiar territory. And so what phone or camera do you use for doing videos? Well, I'm using the iPhone 12 Pro right now. I am looking at doing one of two things. I'm either going to buy this next cycle, I'm going to end up getting the Moto Stylus, which is an Android, or I'm going to do something with Boost Mobile and get what's it called? Get a Google Pixel. So those are going to be what I end up using. So Bigfoot behind me. Yeah, that's my tree. Yeah. Sorry, guys. The sun. Okay, so it was like 50 degrees here, and then all of a sudden it gets up to, it gets all the way up to, what is it, like 80 degrees for the last 3 days. So right now, Sam and I are doing the best we can to be able to hide from the sun. But, it keeps moving through the sky, so you just got to keep moving. So when we started, we had shade, but then as we get into it, we don't have as much shade. So anyways, guys, I wanted to check in with you to, do a couple of live streams, stuff like that. Uh, Everything, just to tell you again, everything's going great. I already told you when we're leaving. We're figuring things out. So I've started doing this thing through vidIQ, which is one of those channels that teaches YouTubers how to be better YouTubers. And I'm actually following one of their programs. So there's a video that's coming out tomorrow that is using one of the titles that they suggested, one of the topics that they suggested. Let's see if we can actually get that thing blown up. Because if I can get the titles and get the topics spot on to where I can get a large enough viewership, not only will the channel grow much quicker, but financially it will help me along the way too, because the more I can rely on the revenue from YouTube and from Patreon, the better things will get from me. So, and that way I can afford things when things go south or go sideways. So let's see here. Yes, it's a lot warmer. It's gonna be in the 90s here in a couple of weeks. I think it could go down to Mexico without my ID and come through. Get 3,000 and a bus ride. I don't know if that's possible. I really don't know if that's possible that you could go down to Mexico and do that. Now, people make jokes about it, but you would have to change your name and have a Mexican birth certificate. Yes, Jacob, you caught another live stream. Glad to see you. So I believe you're the same Jacob that I've been corresponding with on the website. So I really, yeah, you're going to have to do a lot more work. You're going to have to really break into Mexico so that you can break out of Mexico. I mean, and then you got to ask yourself, is the payout worth it? Because, I mean, $3,000 a month with the inflation that we are actually, you know what? They're talking about Economic Ninja. I like the guy, him and Johnny Bravo. That's who I get my economic news from. And there is about to, there's, from what they're talking about, is we're about to have a supply overload on certain products, and we're going to start seeing deflation happen. Because there's been so much inflation that people can't afford it. People are on this and that and the other. And so they're talking about the deflationary period that's going to come, where price is going to drop in everything. So, I mean, either or, unless we get a deflationary, but that means that they would have to suck up every single dollar that's out there to pay the national debt and just to keep it going. In order to be able to do something like that, and they would have to really work on collecting that. So I mean, I don't know, that's just my thoughts on something like that. Let's see what else was said. I heard even some migrants in New York City were asking to go back to their yeah. That's funny. Americans should enter and then illegal re-enter from their federal. Yeah, you know what, that's one thing Canada has stopped taking. Yeah. That's good, but this is going to be. I agree with Texas that this is a war. So have I frozen, by the way, guys? Because my battery thing popped up. Okay, I really do think that that this is a declared war, but this isn't a war that is declared by a country. This is a war declared by corporate interests, stuff like that. So what do you see after the election in terms of homelessness? Do you think it will increase? Well, not even Donald Trump can save us. I mean, he's great in economics, but he can't save us from what's happening. So, and he's proving to become more of a statist than he was before he left. I mean, great rhetoric, but you gotta look at his actions and see if they match his words. No, I mean, the whole America First, that was something people wanted to hear, but then they discounted some of the things that he did, and now he's being called out for it. And the fact that he wants Lady G as his Hey Don, the fact that he wants Lady G as one of his VP picks, that tells me all I need to know about his presidency. So we're not gonna, regardless of who comes in, I think if Biden stays, we will most likely see homeless camps, or an explosion of homelessness, and maybe even the homeless being conscripted, being the first to be conscripted. Because I mean, at that point in time, it becomes a suicide squad. You just need bodies and somebody to be able to hit a target every once in a while. Um, I know if Trump were to get in office, that homeless camps would definitely end up happening. So guys like me would be rounded up and thrown in FEMA camps, and that's not right. So Jim and Diamond was talking about things getting bad between rich and poor. Thoughts on now even billionaires are concerned. No way Biden wins. It seems things are getting worse no matter what. Not that I want either person, but okay. Let's see. YouTube is down putting commercials in the live chat. So greedy. Well, yeah. That's normal. So left wing, right wing, same demon. Yeah, pretty much. Same bird. Just different perspectives. So I mean, I just I think that if Trump wins, it's because they want him to win. It's already been proven that our elections are being tampered with. I mean, they first sounded the alarms in 2016, but then, if it happened in 2016, well, then it's likely to happen in 2020 and 2024 and every election moving forward. And how many elections has it actually happened in the past? That's one question. So do we actually have any control or any say over who our commander in chief is? And why are we electing people based upon party lines? You want to know who would have been a great candidate to go up against either Biden or Trump? Either one would have been RFK Jr. Because he wanted to pull all of our military from all the world, say, you guys figure it out. We're going to come over here to our own neck of the woods, and we're going to go back to what it was before World War II. And you know what? That was when we were having success, and that would have done so much for us in the for the passage of goodwill, that a lot of this stuff that we're dealing with probably wouldn't be going on. So, considering who? What do you think about the trucker convoy that's supposed to... I just talked about that, Cherokee. You're going to have to rewind. So I think that if it is starting a civil war... I was in the Marines, but I ended up getting a separation in boot camp. So, it's JFK Jr. Okay, so, but I think that I think that I think that both of them, Commander. Yeah, no. I like what RFK was going to end up doing, or excuse me, JFK Jr. Sorry. I'm surprised that I'm not surprised that he got silenced, but he would have been the best possible pick for us to make the world safer for our children and grandchildren. So, that's in my best interest. I got a kid that's not even old enough to vote yet, and, I want that future to be, clean and, and safe. And so, we need to stop being the world's police. I think that's the biggest thing, is we need to stop policing the world, because what you're doing is you're creating enemies. We need to realize how we treat our fellow human being, and be able to treat people with dignity and respect, because that is something that it does not matter race, creed, religion, anything like that. A human is a human because we're part of the same species regardless of what color we are. And we need to learn to start treating each other with a little bit more dignity. And I think that will go along. If we as a society decided to do those two things, this world would be so much better in 20 years that, we would be talking about this as if this were the Dark Ages. Just those two things. Treat people with dignity. Because the thing is, you're gonna die with the same amount of money, and you're gonna be born with the same amount of money, which is nothing. You're gonna come in with the same stuff that you're leaving with, nothing. Okay, so all it is an illusion, a status of something like that. And now the communists have taken that and used that, and so therefore anybody else that uses it automatically it gets called a communist. But that's not a communist idea. That's a humanist idea. As humans, you are entitled to be treated in a specific way. Have patience, have tolerance with people. You have the right to defend yourself, but do no harm. If you can't get along with somebody, go your own ways. Stuff like that. Let's see. Yes. All right. Okay. I live for me. I came here with nothing. I'll leave with nothing. Correct. We do have enemies around, but you know what, Jacob? The thing is, these enemies are created because of what our foreign policy does. If we are, as a nation, are going to go in there, read Confessions of an Economic Hitman, okay, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. He goes. That's one of the few books I've read all the way through. It was a great book. I learned a lot about how our economic system works and how our foreign policy works, because they send the guys in who will make these sky predictions of, like, everything. The sky's the limit, and we can make so much money so that they can go to the the monetary the IMF and get the money. And then and because the United States gives the money and is the guarantor for that, now the United States gets to demand their pound of flesh. Well, American companies go in there, gobble it up, waste the money, and the people are worse off than when they started. I mean, if your government was doing things like that, how pissed off would you be? And what type of people would you be electing? So to say that we're doing these things, we need to kind of sit there and back off and start unwinding ourselves from the rest of the world. Our time to lead is over, and we didn't do as good of a job as we thought we did, because the moment we had the opportunity for might and power as a nation, we took it. Even though the citizens didn't want it, the corrupt politicians decided they did, because they were having their pockets lined by commercial interests. So but it is what it is. I'm on my own rant. Does anybody else have any questions? Because my battery only lasts for so long. Now, somebody suggested that I do a wish list for Amazon, so I'm putting one of those together. I am also I'm doing another one for Walmart to kind of, for some of the stuff that got stolen. If some of you guys want to help me buy that stuff back, I'm gonna put my wish list out for that. But other than that, on next month when I get paid, I got to replace that, and hopefully, things keep moving up for me like they have been, to where come March, Sam and I can afford a bus ticket to where we want to go along trail. And I have somebody who is actually giving me some tips and advice on how to move on trail and how to make money on trail and stuff like that, and some ideas, and I might end up using those ideas. So you'll see some different things. But right now, it's like a giant waiting game, because I want to get there when the weather is decent. I don't want to get there when the weather is really cold, because I don't want to have to deal with sand. I would rather be there in the warmer seasons and then deal with the cool down, instead of show up when it's frozen, deal with the heat up, and then go back to being frozen again. So do shorts campaign to grow your channel. You know what? My shorts don't really do very well. I've tried, and every once in a while, I'll get a couple thousand views, but my shorts don't really do very well bushcraft. So, but one thing that does work, though, is the live streams and doing good content. I've noticed that as my content gets better, as I start doing better things, with the channel, and kind of really honing in on my niche. So for those of you that haven't figured out what it is, I talk about homelessness, the nomad lifestyle, and kind of giving you ideas as far as if you're a prepper, this might be what you want to do. And part of the reason why I do that, and this is actually something I had on my mind, I wanted to say during this live stream today. And so for all of you that have managed to stay around this long, here is some bonus information for you. Okay, so many people go out there and they say that the homeless have a lot to teach preppers, and I think that is wrong. I've always thought that that's wrong, but I've been trying to figure out what do the homeless have to offer preppers that makes us so attractive to the prepping community. And the truth is not that preppers have a lot to learn from us, is that preppers, that when it all goes down to shit, you're going to be just like the homeless. That is a reflection of what you will become during SHTF. Now, the thing is, the reason why I think people will attract to me, and why people should be attracting to me, is because, unlike, a majority of the homeless that are out there, especially that are on the social platforms, they're still doing, their white dope or their hard drugs and things like, okay, and they're still doing their things. Well, at the same turn, at the same turn, there is a large portion of the prepper community that is not going to allow them to sink into despair and to get caught up in the drug world, because they want to be able to do something for themselves when they when they have to come out here for one way or another. Okay, so I think that really what the homeless are to the prepper community is we are a reflection of what you will look like during SHTF. So do you want to follow a guy like me that's a stoner, or do you want to follow a guy that does this or does that, or what type of guy do you want to follow? Because when prepping, or when the shit really does hit the fan, you're going to be out here just like me. And are you going to be more like me, or are you going to be more like my neighbor who likes to sit back and do his molly and do his trades, and he works the underground economy, he lives fine, he does fine, but he just likes to be within that crowd, and that's kind of what he does? Or do you want to be somebody that's productive, that goes out there and does things that are going to better their life, and actually takes a moment to enjoy life? Okay, and I think that that's really what we as the homeless community have to show you as preppers. Okay, so thank you, Kimmy. Despite me, okay, so Don Murray, if your channel is monetized, but it's not much. Yeah, I know, you only get like 10 to 15 cents per thousand. So big tarp shelter trail, that's all. I actually, part of what I was going to get before all my stuff went and got stolen, I figured I would just keep on track with that, is I went and I got me the $30 hammock from Walmart with the bug net, and I sold my other hammock. Because I wanted to have a bug net. I got tired of being eaten by these mosquitoes, and I don't want to have to deal with bugs or anything else like that. So, that was something that I was planning on purchasing, before all this stuff went down. So I figured I would follow through on it, because I already had, somebody to buy the other one, which offset half my cost, so that I didn't put as much out of pocket as I could have. So it was an opportunity, and I took it, and I think it was the right choice, because Sam and I are sleeping so much better in there, and plus she can't get out and run all night, so that's really good. All right, guys, my battery is about to die, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna let this live stream end. Thank you for watching. You know how to help the channel. Become a subscriber. Everything else is down in the description. Come on over to Patreon. Get the 7-day the 7-day free trial. Become a member of the Hobo Tutorials plus behind the scenes, and that way you get the full scope, and like basically it's $1.25 a video. So if you guys want to help out the channel, that's the one you can do. So thanks for watching. Yes, keeping up with Gary is tough, even with money. All right, you guys have a good one, and I will see you in the next live stream.